You're listening to the 23 Personnel Podcast, a Texas Tech athletics podcast where food and sports clash at the goal line. Here are your hosts, Spencer and Michael.
All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the 23 Personnel Podcast. I am your host, Spencer, joined by Michael. Michael, what's up, man?
Texas Tech is up by 11. That's what's up.
Yeah, at the under 16 timeout, man. Second half. Here we go.
Yeah. Holding on. Looking pretty good here in Lubbock. Taking on the number 6 team in the country. Just for fun.
The Longhorns.
Yeah, trying to build a little winning streak.
Is 2 a streak? Because going back to Saturday, man, you took down a top 15 Kansas State team wearing that god-awful lavender purple. Ugh.
I don't think I hate it as much as
You deserve
That's
to
probably
lose when
most
they wear
people.
that garbage. Anyways, Texas Tech, I was not a believer in that game until right there at the very end. Texas Tech had a modest lead there through most of the game. And it got down. It was back and forth, and it got down to like 1 point or under. Not under 1 point, but it was back and forth a little bit. Texas Tech then built on that lead and kind of did the Heisman pose and held the Wildcats off. I was like, well, shit, man. Here
now
we
we're
go.
cooking. Now we're cooking, guys.
And then I was the Debbie Downer that pissed on the parade here, and I said, well, you know what? Even if Texas Tech won every game, they'd still miss the tournament. So here we go. I was that guy.
That's fair.
And I don't know if you have notifications turned on for the Twitter account. I got a lot of people like, damn, man, we just won. Stop. I was like, yeah, that was bad. I'm sorry.
We're just kind of reached that point. We've reached that point in the season.
Jaded.
We're trying not to be. I'm sure a lot of you guys are the same way. But yeah, you know, even if they hold on tonight, it's kind of like great.
You didn't get swept by the Longhorns.
But now what? But yes, to beat, we can't knock down that if they hold on tonight. And I know me just talking about it is putting bad vibes out into the ether, but yeah, but they will have managed to knock off 2 ranked teams, 2 really good teams in a row at home. So, in 2 days apart from one another. If they hold on tonight, I cannot specify that enough. So, anyways, yeah.
Texas Tech has shown the propensity to have a second half meltdown, even with double-digit leads, against teams not as good as Texas. So, still plenty of basketball to prove that otherwise, true or false, I guess. But I don't want to root against Texas Tech. So I realize what I'm about to say may sound like that. But if Texas Tech does go on some kind of run here, it makes the first half of the conference season that much more frustrating. You're like, it was there, obviously capable in the tank, and you looked terrible. Like, so much so that, like, a lot of people publicly on, private or premium message boards calling for Adams and the staff to lose their jobs, and that still may be the case. I don't know. I don't pretend to know what those conversations are like between administration or boosters or all that kind of stuff, other than what I also see. But it was bad, man. So it doesn't really make you feel better if you go on a run here, and you do like what you did against Kansas State and what you've done so far against Texas. You've played pretty well defensively. You haven't been embarrassed by like just bad rotations. Texas is able to hit some shots because they're Texas. It's a talented team. It's not like your offense is scoring points. You're hitting a bunch of threes. You haven't even needed the 3. I mean, you had 21 first half points from Harmon, which is like, that's more than a season average, even with his second half heroics in most games. So
Yeah, Harmon is 3 for 3 from beyond the arc right now, including one that banked in and including a very last second shot right before halftime. And I will confess too, because of this point in the season, I think every single time he let it go
Mm-hmm.
on a three, I was like, oh no. And I think I said it out loud, like, what are we doing? What are you doing?
Oh,
Oh
no.
no. And then he made that first three and then came right back down the court, made the second one, banked it in. I especially was oh no on the bank because I thought, man, you just
Mm-hmm.
made one. Let's tone it down. But yep, happy to be wrong. Dude's playing really well so far,
What?
and perfect from the line too.
Yeah. Wasn't there somebody else that banked in three? Was it like Lamar Washington?
No, it was Jennings.
Jennings, yes.
Yes, Jennings banked in a three later. I'm pretty sure.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
because I think Fran even said something like, "What? You were surprised that went in? I think he's made three this season. Why weren't you? Why were you surprised that went in?" I forgot what he said.
Didn't he
Something
say like
that.
he's shooting 14%? You probably can't hear it, but we're also starting to get our little downpour here, which is fantastic for
It's raining.
our slice of heaven called Lubbock. Hey, before we get too far into this, yeah, the second half is underway. But this episode 335 of the 23 Personal Podcast, is brought to you by Sports Drink, your digital water cooler. It is Sports Drink is the intersection of sports and not sports, much like 23 Personnel, food and sports clashing at the goal line. They're here to help us grow and hate on your favorite team. So go follow them on social at Sports Drink, spell like Sports Drink but without the vowels, on Instagram or sportsdrink.org. Check out our show and the many others within the network. Speaking of the network, couldn't get through any of that without talking about how the wonderful Stake in the Plains content network has been to us and our podcast over the years, and it's continuing to grow, and we're super excited about that. Specifically, the podcasts of Gambling Gauchos, Seeing Scarlet, Red Raider Dugout. I can't
Why do you
remember the
always
name.
blank on that one?
I don't know because I think it's because I'm trying not to say the name of the rivals site, and I blank, and then it's also because it used to be called something else, or maybe it
Okay.
still is called something else.
Well, and in my
But
defense, Red Raider has always been kind of a tongue twister for me. I have trouble pronouncing R's. You guys know this if you've ever heard me say rural
rural
or brewery.
brewery
Brewery.
library
It's even better to watch me say that.
February.
I
Anyways,
just I ditch the R. I just go straight up February.
that's good too.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't want to like say we jinxed it, but the lead is down to single digits.
Son
Nope,
of
it's 10 now. It's back to 10.
a. Okay, we're back. We're back, baby.
We're back. It was 8 for a minute. Anyways, so while the game's going on, I know it's going to be difficult
The
probably to
rain
listen to
sounds
us.
so good. Sorry.
It's so awesome.
So wonderful here. It's so damn dry.
Maybe a little difficult to listen to us try to go through baseball while also watching a basketball game. But Michael, there is baseball this weekend, starting on Friday afternoon, 1:00. So I want to talk about baseball. Get you some predictions, a compilation of people that I trust, what they have said, and kind of combine it. Namely, Keith Patrick at Red River Dugout and the Dinger Derby podcast, or the Red
Who
River Dugout
has
podcast. But
Yeah, I mean he also has a couple of posts of his own on
he's got
Red
3.
Raider RedRaiderDugout.com. He's got a preview over there that he's worked up the last 2 weeks, I believe. And I haven't checked with him and I haven't seen exactly, but I know that he's got some episodes queued up to get the season going, I think. So definitely look in your podcast feeds. He will be back in action very, very soon.
He's also getting hit up quite often to jump on other people's podcasts to help preview. So be on the lookout for that. It is the Longhorns on a 12-4 lead run. cut the lead down to 5. So that was fun. As soon as I said they had the propensity to have second half meltdowns, have given up
Adams
9.
apparently had to take a timeout.
Yeah, we're at a timeout right now. So let's get to baseball. Give you that preview, prediction, look ahead to the weekend as well. And then we'll come back to basketball. So let's get to baseball.
Left field, well struck. Desloney picks it up on a bounce. He's racing for second. Throw! Out in second!
Young lifts it to right field, looking for his second home run, and he's got it into his own bullpen.
Reps and some time because all the tools are there.
Wow, this one launched deep left off the bat of Warren and into the bleachers. There he goes, and the pitch is driven high deep to right. Kjerstad to the wall, off the top of the fence. Here comes the big fella. Cameron Warren's going to motor home for first. Throw to third is late, and the Red Raiders have reclaimed the lead. Popped up. Trevor Boone back. It's more than a pop-up. It's a big fly. Tuck takes the lead. Levick and leave it. Texas Tech can start packing for Omaha.
All right. Baseball first pitch Friday, 1 p.m., hosting the Gonzaga Zags. Before we get to that, a little bit of a preview. Baseball is probably the hardest one of the 3 sports that we do to start a preview, especially of a series, because you're just not exactly sure, one, what the rosters look like. Texas Tech hasn't officially announced a roster and won't until Wednesday. So what I'm about to tell you could look really stupid in 48 hours because we just don't know. We do know that there are a number of guys that are with the team that will not be on the team, if that makes sense. And I'm not talking about guys like Jace and Josh Young who are in town and been practicing here locally with the guys, but guys that have been practicing to make the team that ultimately will not. But I have been enjoying our countdown to first pitch on the tweeter, Michael. We talked about it on the podcast last week. We couldn't let the opportunity go to have Patrick Mahomes. There we go. Oh my goodness. I blanked so hard on that.
I didn't know where you were going. I would have helped you out if you needed the name of the 2-time Super Bowl MVP who also went to Texas Tech.
That would have been smart if I could just remember that. Like if I could keep a thought in my head at all. So I had to do
question.
Had to do 2 guys on Sunday, and it was. I hope it was obvious because his Texas Tech baseball career was very short lived. So some of the stats and accomplishments I faded into football accomplishments. I talked about how he was. The other thing I mentioned him having one of the highest ERAs, which is a bad thing, but I didn't clarify that was a bad
that I
thing.
enjoyed. I was like, oh, is this good? Because y'all know, my baseball fandom here. I was like, oh, that's good, right?
Yeah,
I thought it was like a divisible by 0 thing. Like there just wasn't a very big sample size and something crazy happened.
No, so you do get really, really high ERAs with a small sample size. But he finished his Texas Tech pitching career with an ERA of 99. And then, he played in 3 career games, had a 0 batting average. But then I faded into some football stats and talked about how he was drafted 10th overall. I didn't say he was drafted in the NFL draft. I just said he was drafted 10th overall, and then talked about how he was a league MVP and a world champion, which now needs to be updated. He's a league MVP twice, Super Bowl MVP twice, Super Bowl champion twice. He's won 2 out of the 3 Super Bowls he's been to. Just fantastic. But Today was Grant Little with 4 days to go. Tomorrow is Michael Davis, who has Michael's absolute favorite walk-up tune of all time.
Which is?
It was our boy Sam Hunt.
It's not. Oh, it's Body Like a Back Road.
Body Like a Back Road.
Oh,
Very
crap.
unnecessarily sexualized walk-up song. He was like, oh man, he's setting
maybe-
the tune here.
Maybe he likes curve balls.
Anyways, 2, I believe, is Orlando Garcia, if I remember correctly. I could just pull up Twitter and look at the drafts here, but I could also just leave you in suspense. Not that that's really a thing. Anyways, and then we'll obviously have 1 and 0. So for actual game day. But before we get there, though, because it's this year, we're talking about this year, and we're not looking at last year guys anymore. I want to go with look around the diamond, look around the field at who's coming back, who's playing, who you may expect to play. There are just a couple of positions on the field this year that I think are just completely locked up based on who is there and who performed, which is a product of the way the roster has turned over. But even there are some returning guys that were everyday type guys that may have not locked up a spot. And that's not a knock against them, but more of a testament to Tadlock and Thomas, their recruiting ability and what they would bring in this year. So starting behind the dish, catcher Hudson White, I think, is one of the guys you can just expect to be the starter. He had such a great freshman year after he got off his 0-16 start at the plate. But then to finish with the respectable batting average he did, considering he went like 5 games in a row without getting a hit. He's going to be one of your regular guys back there. He will be also in a rotation on off days from behind the dish. He may be taking some time over at first base, which he did with Stillwell last year. You remember those two rotated quite a bit over between catcher and first. When Hudson White is not catching, it could be a couple of other guys, namely Kevin Bazell. Bazell was originally a Dallas Baptist guy, committed to them, enrolled in there, and then transferred last year. Was with the team last year, but was ineligible to play for the Red Raiders, even though he was, like I said, on campus. Or it could be newcomer Dylan Maxey, who has been really flashing the bat lately. And that may get him some play coming up in the rotation at DH, which we'll talk about here in a second. First base, I think you can pretty much look at Gavin Cash. He's a transfer from Texas. He actually did play in the series against the Longhorns here in Lubbock last season, and seemed to do pretty well against... I'm blanking on the pitcher's name who started that day, but he was one of our better starters. I'm having a hard time with names in my memory. But like I said, if it's not Cash, it may be White, or Bazell may also get some time there. But the other guy to look out for is newcomer Damian Bravo. He may get some play over there at first base. Middle infield, second base, shortstop is where it's a little more difficult to kind of project, because it's a rotation, or not. Sorry, it's like between 3 guys, essentially, and they can all play any of those spots. But it looks like it will be a second base shortstop duo of Austin Green and Will Burns, or possibly Tracer Lopez. And I think between the 3 of them, you've got your 2 starters there. And then whoever is not starting will be a backup on either one of those spots. And the other guy to look out for may be Cade McGar, another highly touted guy that's coming in. Third base, I think should be held down by Bazell, who may rotate there at catcher, but he may be your starting third baseman. Backed up by McGar. Or even possibly a little bit later down the end of the season, Travis Sanders, although he will be out for several weeks maybe even a couple months here with a back injury. So your infield, there's a lot of new faces, or at least new to the program, even though they may not all be true freshmen, but could look like Hudson White at catcher, Gavin Cash, Austin Green, and Will Burns up the middle, Kevin Bazell there at third. In the outfield, you've got some new faces that could play a role. A familiar face that wasn't with the team last year could figure into the playing rotation here. But starting off in left field, I think you'll have a good shot to see the transfer from Wofford out there, Nolan Hester. Was a career .331 batter for them, and may even be like a top of the lineup type of guy with his speed and abilities there. Speed and his ability to get on base. If it's not Hester, you could see former Red Raider Drew Woodcocks, who transferred to Rice for the 2022 season, but has transferred back. He could get some play out there, or it could be newcomer Jarek Curtis, who, if you go look at Keith's preview, because he includes some of their 60 times, which is the sprint speed that baseball uses. He clocks in fastest on the team, and even a little bit faster than Speedy Max Marshak was from a few years ago. I remember everything that we said about him. He just couldn't get the bat going. Jarek Curtis has got the potential to be, playing a lot with his speed and with his bat. In center field, returner Dylan Carter has that spot right now. I went to the tailgate dinner at Kegel's last week, and that was one of the position battles that Coach Tadlock spoke about specifically. Even though he had that spot so locked down defensively, he's got a really tough task ahead of him to fend off the guys behind him, because they're making his job difficult to hold that one down. Namely Gage Harrelson, newcomer. He would be like the second fastest guy on the team, just like a tiny bit slower, and I mean like a tiny bit, than Jarek Curtis, but also still faster than Marshak. But again, both Harrelson and Curtis both project to have a bigger, better bat than Marshak did. So if it's not Carter, then it's going to be Harrelson, or possibly even Jarek Curtis. The issue with that, both those guys are young and are new. They're learning the aspects of playing center field. And that was, again, one of the things that Tadlock said, that Carter has the advantage over these guys because he can read the ball and take so much better angles defensively. And that's helping him kind of hold that position. But like I said, he's got a couple guys behind him that are really pushing him, which is always great. Right field, I think, is your other starting position that's nailed down based on returning talent, and that's Owen Washburn. There may be some time where Washburn is moved into the infield, possibly at second base, to help with the guys in the outfield, get some more time, and maybe there's got some opportunity there with the young guys in the infield to get a veteran presence in there. And if he's coming out of the outfield, then you can see Ryan Brome or Jarek Curtis. Curtis could play anywhere across the outfield, really. But I expect Washburn to get most of his time there in the outfield. DH, you haven't heard me mention Ty Coleman, but that's probably where he could be. He could also figure into the rotation in the middle infield if they need some senior or some elder leadership there. But DH could be Coleman, it could be Ryan Brome, it could be Dylan Maxey, it could be any of these guys that have a big bat that don't really have a spot to stand in the field just yet because of all the other guys out there. Your starting pitching rotation, I think, is going to look a lot like Mason Molina, Brendan Gerton, Bo Blessy, and Brandon Beckel. What order that's going to look like, or if there's going to be somebody else new to the program, or somebody that it takes on a new role, then I don't know yet, but it may look like one of those four guys.
I have something to add there.
Oh yeah, let's hear it, man.
That's a lot of alliteration.
Mason Molina, Bo Blessey, Brandon Beckel. Yeah, 3 of the 4 guys have a double letter. But anyways,
That's good. I think it's a good sign.
other guys on the pitching staff, maybe coming out of the bullpen or maybe figuring out, starting or pushing for some starting time. Trendon Parrish, we all remember him from last year, the fiery young guy that season ended a little early with an injury, but he's coming back. Andrew Devine, Derek Bridges is currently injured, should be coming back. I don't know when. Josh Sanders, same kind of boat. Then you get guys like Dax Dathy as a transfer, Tabor Fast, Nolan Foster, Jacob Rogers, Ryan Free, Ethan Coombs, who I think is a transfer in from LCU here in town, Hudson Luce, Zach Erdman, Zane Petty, Kyle Robinson, Jack Washburn, brother of Owen Washburn. He's coming in from Mississippi State or Ole Miss, I believe, but he's also injured and will be out for a little bit of time. And I feel like there was a name I was trying to remember that I didn't write down for whatever reason. But within all those names I just read, there are too many names for the roster. This year, Tadlock did mention their roster should be at 39, which will include the 4 extra players that are using eligibility from COVID seasons of the possible 40 spots. But I think Texas Tech is above 40. I think they're at 42. So they've got a few guys to trim, unfortunately, to make that opening day roster. But even though I listed off and said a lot of these guys are new, there's a lot to be excited about with the guys that are coming in, with the guys that are returning. Like a guy like Bazell, even though this is his first year playing, he's a sophomore. He's been around Dallas Baptist, which is a big time baseball program. He's been with Texas Tech now for about a year. Drew Woodcox was with Tech, went to Rice, and is back at Tech. So this will be at least his third year, if I'm remembering how long he was here before he transferred. The newcomer from Wofford, Nolan Hester, Austin Green is a transfer with some age on him. Gavin Cash, obviously playing at Texas. Like, there are guys around here with some skill and some skins behind the name to really have you excited about this team. But kind of reminds me of the basketball team as you put the roster together, how much they play together. One, with baseball, they've been playing for several months. They've been, inter squad and scrimmage and all that kind of stuff. So you'd think some of that's there. So let's turn to the weekend series. Look at the Gonzaga coming in. It's a 4-game series, Friday through Monday. First pitch Friday at 1 p.m., Saturday 1 p.m., and then I believe, unless I've got it mixed up, Sunday and Monday games are also morning or early afternoon. But this Gonzaga team last year went 37-19, 20-7 in the Western Conference play. They are led by Coach Mark Machtolf. If you remember any of their teams from last year, they were led by some really big-time names that have gone on and are now playing professionally, namely their catcher, DH Tyler Rando. He signed a free agent contract with the Marlins. He batted .315 at 8 home runs, and he started all 114 of his games for the Zags. He played in 114 games. He started 114 games, which is almost unheard of. He never had a day off where he came in as a replacement or whatever. And then they had 3 very, very talented pitchers, 2 starters. Gabriel Hughes, 10th overall pick to the Rockies, had an ERA of 3.21. He was 8-3 on the season, 98 innings pitched, and he was a guy that went deep into every game he pitched. No start shorter than 6 full innings with 138 strikeouts. These are guys that are no longer on the team, but Tristan Vreeling, he's a 3rd-round pick of the Yankees. Was also a pretty good guy. Had 80 plus innings, 107 strikeouts, and their closer Michael Spellacy, just over 2 ERA, 37 innings, and 12 saves. key guys returning, third base or just infielder, because they may also be moving guys around. Cade McGee, he was just under 300 batting average last year, 10 home runs, 31 RBI. Xavier Pinellas, shortstop, 297, 24 RBI, but had 15 stolen bases. Grayson Sterling, infielder, utility guy, infield, outfield, 285. So these guys that are returning aren't like high average guys, but they're all right there, and they can definitely do damage over a 4-game series. Enzo Apodaca, outfielder, 279 with 45 RBI, and then their other catcher, Ezra Simperi, 279 batting average. Then a couple of pitchers, Owen Wild, who had 74 innings on the season last year with a 3.0 ERA, 9-1, which is just crazy. 83 strikeouts, and then Brady Mullen, who's 1-1 on the season, only had 28 in the third innings pitched, but in those 28 innings, he had 20 strikeouts. So first series out of the gate, it's hard to project. One, because you're not really entirely sure what you have, and you're not really entirely sure what this Gonzaga team has. But it's definitely a team that will test you or can test you. This is not a Eastern Washington matchup in basketball or Texas Southern or whatever that you've played before. This is a good opportunity right out of the gates to get your team going, and you've got 4 games against them. So you got great opportunity. If you don't have tickets, I'm sure you'll be able to find some. But like I said, Friday and Saturday, I know those game times are at 1. Sunday, Monday opportunities as well.
Yeah,
So,
Sunday's at 1, and as of now, Monday is at 11 a.m. But, Monday is a holiday for a lot of folks, so there might be a chance that you could get some butts and seats on that occasion. I know that the school my daughter goes to will be closed. I'm sure there's some other places that will be closed, so Monday will be a holiday, which I really think they should, if they're going to observe President's Day, it should just be the day after the Super Bowl, but that's an entirely different conversation. So I did want to update. I mean, I know that, are we streaming?
I believe so.
Okay, so if
I
people are
haven't
streaming,
checked. I haven't checked.
Texas Tech, UT tied it up at 64, and then Tech just took the lead again on a dunk by O'Banner. So it's now a close game. 3:57 left. Probably about to be a media timeout any second. But Tech's up 66-64. Oof.
Yeah, the stat broadcast. There it goes. It's updated now.
And it's not lost on me that Gonzaga has a pitcher with the last name Wild. I know I'm sorry, that's all I could contribute to the baseball discourse this evening was just pitcher names.
You did come back and confirm that Jack Washburn did transfer from Ole Miss.
See, I try to help.
Yeah, you did. And then there was a kind of a joke made at the tailgate dinner on Friday night at Kegel's about the pitcher named Fast, and Gio was like, "There's some hefty expectations there when you got a guy coming in onto the mound with the name Fast." So, but supposedly he does not disappoint. I believe he is a two-way prospect. They're still trying to figure out if he will be a pitcher only or if he'll try to play both those roles out. But
I do have some
figured
baseball.
out.
I do have some baseball-related news. We went to the Science Spectrum for the first time in a while this weekend, and they have completely redone the sports section, and it's really interactive, and they've got a lot of cool things for kids and adults to do. My 6-year-old daughter has a standing broad jump of 4 foot 4 inches. I don't know what this means.
Hey, that's that's as long as Grayson is tall.
Yeah. Dear old dad went 7 foot 8 inches, but that's not here or there. But the thing I wanted to point out was Gus had some really cool videos describing curveballs and describing fastballs. So they actually interviewed him and filmed him talking about the physics behind how curveballs work and how fastballs work, and I was not trying to be funny. I was riveted. It was very interesting how he was explaining it, and he just has a way of explaining things in general that's easy to follow and easy to understand. And then they had graphics going with it showing the difference between topspin and backspin and how the stitches, affect the airflow and all this kind of stuff. I was like, man, this is great. I needed this. like, 15 years ago. But I'm learning it now. I'm trying.
The other physics I would hit you with is when you hit the ball, you can impart, backspin or topspin. Topspin is going to be more of like a line drive, especially if you get an angle from behind the batter. You see the ball kind of like dip pretty quickly. That's got a ball with a lot of topspin on it. But balls that'll carry, especially home runs, are going to have a lot of backspin on it that'll keep the ball elevated a little bit longer, and let that good old West Texas wind blow it out over the fence.
Blow it out to La Mesa.
Hey, so Texas Tech extended the lead, now back up to 6 points. Forced a Texas timeout, 2:26 to go. There was an O'Banner dunk with a AMAC assist there. Got the team fired up and got Texas on the defensive here to call that timeout. Up 6, 2:26 to go. Last couple things, updates around the ballpark. There obviously is some construction going on down there with the new clubhouse that will be put on pause here pretty quickly to get the season underway. But first up, there was some adjustments to the visitor bullpen. I think it was deepened after some feedback from opposing teams that said they couldn't really get two guys warming up there at the same time or have some space to sit. Of course, the new clubhouse will be out there in foul ground, left field area. So that's one of the areas. But they're also replacing the foul poles. The left field foul pole is up. I think they're going with just taller iterations of the normal foul pole, up to 40 feet. Right field is down currently, as of this afternoon at least, but should be up here obviously the next couple of days to get it in time for the season. But and then construction will resume after the season to get that clubhouse all nice and ready for the following season when everything will move. But lots of good things happen over there at Rip Griffin Park. Can't wait for the season to start. I've got my scorebook ready to go. We don't have room for every game this season, but I haven't scored every game in the season yet. So I need the rest of the pages, but I'm not as diehard on scoring all those games like Keith Patrick is. He keeps every game, even games he doesn't watch, in his book, so he needs a new one every year. But I will be more than thrilled to finish out that scorebook this season and then order a new one.
Will you be in attendance this weekend?
No. We are.
Of course not. That was a dumb question.
No, it's fine. We are, just for those that maybe not know or haven't kept up with that yet, which is fine. It's personal, but we're in the final countdown for baby number 3 in the Rogers family. So
yeah,
we had an appointment this morning. Everything's going well. No concerns there, except for physical size of the baby. Samantha's not a big girl. But baby number 2, Hayden, was over 9 pounds. This one, our little girl, Samantha's at 37 weeks. So just a few weeks away from being, full term. And based on their measurements, which aren't, exactly 100% accurate because they're looking at, ultrasound, but, measuring 7.5 pounds with a couple weeks to go.
Okay.
And the doctor was looking and was checking everything out, was looking at her amniotic fluid and said, hey, you actually have a lot of fluid around the baby. He's like, which sounds like a good thing, except what that does is it's like when you're growing a plant or something and it's got like a lot of space, it will take that space that you give it. So it's like
building a freeway.
Having a lot of extra amniotic fluid sounds good, except it's going to give the baby more room to grow. So it's could continue to grow.
Just stretching.
But he said, all the things they're all indications point to everything being healthy and good. The other thing he said that we're going to take to heart and lean towards a schedule induction here is with all that fluid, he said there's a higher chance of the umbilical cord prolapsing coming out before the baby, which would then put the baby at risk. He's like, if that happens, it's an emergency, and I'd rather your water break here at the hospital down the hallway from the OR if we had to go in and do that, as opposed to 20 or 30 minutes away. So,
Yeah, or you're an hour away by the time you leave the ballpark and
oh yeah, that too.
all that kind of stuff. And yeah. So, okay, yeah, as soon as I said that out loud, I was like, oh, that's a dumb question because I knew the context. So yeah, you're pretty much, y'all are pretty much, yeah, you're on baby watch.
Yeah, which also means there will be a hiatus here on the podcast for just a little bit. Like I said, we're getting close to the end of the basketball season, anyways. And
Oh, it's been over for a while, Spencer.
early baseball season. We'll have to let Keith handle all that for all of us. But
You don't want me to host a solo baseball
solo podcast on baseball. I mean, you're more than welcome to hit record.
I know. I know.
I'm not going to stop
but,
you, man.
Yeah, okay. Dang it. Call my bluff.
Oh man, we just had a turnover with a minute to go, but Texas Tech still up by 4, at least according to my broadcast here.
You remember what I predicted before we started recording? You know, Davion Harmon had 21 points in the first half. I was like, he's going to end with 27 or something, didn't he?
He's got 23.
He's got 23.
O'Banner with 17, Demarion Williams 5, Amac with 12, Tyson, quiet night from him, 4 fouls, 5 points. Not having a great night against his former team tonight.
No, I mean,
they fouled the Longhorns. They're shooting free throws right now.
I think you know, Amac has helped a lot on the boards. He's got 8. And Fisher, man, I mean, in limited time came in and racked up 5 rebounds. So he was kind of all over the place during his time in. But, yeah, it's just seems like things are not going super well right now. I'm only watching on stat broadcast because back here in my bunker, I'm kind of afraid to stream too many things at once, and we're trying to stream our beautiful faces to you lovely people.
I've got so many streams going right now. Oh, that's out on Texas.
Oh, which is great because now when I have a breakout, when I have like a nice big zit above the bridge of my glasses like I do right now.
Well, you got a hat on right now. There's some shade
No,
up
it's
there.
kind
You
of
can't see
trying
it.
to get some shade.
I wouldn't have noticed. I don't actually see it, but I wouldn't have noticed it if you hadn't pointed anything out.
I was at an
I'm sure
elementary
nobody's-
school today, and I had like 3 kids notice it
Oh, that's rough.
and asked me what it was, and I'm like, "It's a zit," and they said, "Oh." And then
None
one
of your
kid,
business.
I've never heard anyone ask this before. Well, when did you get it?
I've been working
it's
on it
not-
for a few days now.
Yeah, that's what I said. I think it's not a tattoo, kid. I mean, I about 3 days ago I could feel it was making its way, the only way it knew how, and I just anyway. Kids
Slow
are
and steady,
brutal.
man.
To be a
Hey.
bald man at a school, you've got to know that all the bald questions are coming.
So I did that last semester. I think it was December when I did it. I had a blast. I'm looking for. I'm trying to find
Oh,
a
it
day to do
was-
it again this semester, and probably like April or May before I get back. But
I am absolutely exhausted. I was outside for 2 recesses. My poor little girl had a breakdown because the kids were just like mauling me, and it was just
No,
just
that's
couldn't
my
handle it. I think it was partially that, and then the fact that they were screaming so much about what they wanted to do and what they wanted to play. I think that was just like sensory overload on top of everything. So anyway,
Yeah.
bless her heart. So I just kind of carried her around for a little while after that. But man, it was crazy. I went to first. Well, my little one's in kindergarten, so obviously spent time in that class, and then pre-K, a pre-K class, a first, second, and third grade class, and man, just complete different vibes in all the classes. All the kids are they're learning. They're trying really hard. They're learning things that I forgot. I don't know what I was doing at that age, but every class I walked into, I was like, oh man, I can't believe they're doing this already.
yeah,
And I think that's just how it is now. I don't think I'm an old misremembering thing. I think even what my kindergartner does, I'm like, man, I don't remember doing that. I don't think I did that at 6 years old. Anyway, it was really cool. It was fun. a lot of work, and you just get
Yeah.
kind of a taste of what these teachers and what these students do every day.
Let's transition to basketball. The stat broadcast has us at 20 seconds to go. We're gonna hit you with an instant reaction here in just a second, but right now, 20 seconds to go. I'm like, you're listening to this after the word, after the fact. If Texas Tech ends up losing this right now, it's gonna be brutal. But Texas Tech is up 5, 20 seconds to go. Let's get to basketball, man.
Okay.
Here comes Stevenson. Spins. And it is stuck back by the freshman sensation Smith.
Pass over the top of Coleman. Stripped by Owens. Ready on the run. Bounce pass. Here's Culver.
Evans.
Yes! Game over.
Mooney with a crossover and the lob to Owens.
Now the shot clock is at 3. Mooney spins, fires. Oh, he got it to go. Edwards with a 3. Good! What a shot, Kyler Edwards. Ready double into Tariq. Owens who puts it down. Already. Odiasi crowbars it in. Shot clock down to 5. Got the screen. Here's the 3. Good!
Culver got the separation. Oh, big shot. Step it up big time. Dagger. Over the dish. Odiase. And one. He can tie it at the line.
That's it. There's a new member of the Final Four Club, and they hail from Lubbock, Texas.
All right, they're currently reviewing an out of bounds off of Harmon, but it's pretty clear it's off him. Be Texas ball, 22 seconds. Michael, if Red Raiders pull this off, are we still like everything's still the same as it was a couple weeks ago? Or is there something there like, like there's hope there. We can back off the sky is falling takes, at least on that I had. I don't want to attribute that to you. That was all Spencer too, but you're still on mute there, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, I'm afraid I'm gonna like sneeze or cough or do something stupid during the
Burp, fart. It's all good.
during the music, so I don't want to ruin it. But I'll ruin it by speaking instead. So I do think it's like you mentioned earlier. It reminds me of some of those down years, or many of those down years of Tech football, where Tech just randomly wins some game in November that they had no chance of winning, and you're like, what the hell?
How many times did that happen?
Why? Maybe not November. But, beating Texas at the end of Kingsbury's
Yeah, that's
one of
true.
those seasons, stuff like that, where you're just kind of, well, where was this? So, yeah, I'm the same, slightly jaded, slightly annoyed. But then again, this team has been so predictable. These lineups they've been trotting out has been so, I said predictable. I did not mean that. Unpredictable. These lineups they've been trotting out have been completely inconsistent. I know a lot of it's due to injuries. A lot of it's just due to finding guys that are playing well at the moment, giving guys that had a good game the previous game, giving them a chance to shine a little bit. Throwing Fisher into the lineup, Jennings, reaching into the bench as far as they can to get guys to start over Bacho, over Amac, over Isaacs. And I don't know what kind of recipe that is. It just seems like there's too many variables at play that I can't point to a win, which this looks like it might be.
Hell yeah, AMAC just blocked the shit out of Brock Cunningham.
So I can't point to a win of this caliber and think, man, if they'd have just started this group or done this whole year, then everything would have been fine, because so many things had to go well tonight so far. I mean, Tech was 50% last I checked from 3. I can't think of the last game that's happened, or if it's ever happened this season.
Almost 47% from the 92% from the stripe.
Yeah, they've missed one free throw. And I mean, just
So Banner
everything.
hits both.
Yeah, everything went about as well. It has gone so far about as well as it could or needed to, in order to get this win. I mean, they kind of had a similar outing against Kansas State. They just were better in every category. Offensively, they forced Kansas State. I mean, the story of that game is forced a team that doesn't turn over the ball much to turn it over 23 times. And, they're also able to, let me get back to where I was at. I was trying to find the stat on that exact one. Oh, I'm missing it. But, yeah, I don't think it changes my tune too much. I just think that it's. But then again, you could also say, well, if this is the group that works, then why hasn't this group been playing this whole time? But I don't think anybody knew this. There's so many young guys. There's so many freshmen. Judging by Spencer's reaction, something happened.
Sorry, I just looked up. I was following it. Stat broadcast. Hit zeros. Texas Tech 74. Texas 67. The Longhorns missed a 3 attempt. And then on the loose ball, Texas gets fouled out near half court, missed the free throw. Texas Tech rebounds that, then throws baseball pass in the backcourt. Time expires. Texas Tech wins 74-67. That is now back-to-back ranked wins at home. No, it's 3 in a row. Right?
Oh, Iowa State,
Kansas
Yeah,
State,
'cause-
now Texas, which
yeah,
is so
'cause
you've
they-
beaten the number 1 and 2 teams in back-to-back games here
That's
at
right.
home in Kansas
I don't
State and
know-
Texas.
I don't know what the hell to think of anything anymore. But that's great. I love that they won. Still kind of annoyed, but I love that they won.
I know. I just like. I love that they won, but you just said, and we mentioned earlier, it's annoying. It's like, where the hell has this team been?
Well, in the last 2 games, in like the big 3 stats, field goals, threes, and free throws, Texas Tech has bested Texas and Kansas State in all 3 of those categories in both games. That's pretty much it. Texas was awful from the line tonight. They were 59%. They were great from 3 like they usually are. They're 41%, but they weren't 50.
Yeah.
39%. So, I mean, I think Tech's kind of found some footing again in defense. They weren't able to force many turnovers tonight. Texas really held onto the ball.
Only
had
6
6 turnovers.
But
the other thing against K-State was, I think, 28 points off turnovers is what Tech had. So the shooting, all 3 phases of the shooting had to go well, and then the defense had to hold up their end of the bargain too, and that worked out in both games. But in theory, that should have been something that could have been working all year. I know the strength of the league is always brought up and always mentioned, as it should be. That doesn't mean 3-10 is not frustrating.
Oh no, it's frustrating as hell, dude. Because
It's
again,
really
if
bad.
you win out, you'll be 8-10 in the regular season, which is, I mean, it's
a heck of a turnaround from 0-8.
It would be, and obviously like that's going to take a lot, right? I mean, yes, you did just beat teams 1 and 2 in the Big 12 standings, so it's possible, but you still have to go to Kansas. You still have to. You still have TCU, Oklahoma State,
West
who's
Virginia.
left? West Virginia, and Morgantown.
Yeah.
So I mean, it would be difficult. Even then, that would get you to under 500, but you'd be close. You would need some help in the Big 12 tournament. May as well just go win the whole thing if you want to get into the big dance, but you may be fighting yourself into an NIT type appearance, which is like a consolation from where you were a couple weeks ago. Like, might not be that bad. But I don't want to. I don't want to talk into ourselves of moral victories and all that kind of stuff, because when the season's gone as poorly as it has up to this point, coming off a Sweet 16 team and you had opportunity against Duke there, which was a really tough team, but it's a step back and not where you wanted to be. But as I get swept up in the wave of the momentum of the season, like making a postseason tournament that isn't one you have to pay to get into, which Texas has. Texas Tech has not. Point that out. Tech's never played in the CBI. Longhorns have. I wouldn't turn my nose up at trying our hand at the NIT this year, especially with just how much you've had to deal with, because you play without Bacho tonight. Isaacs has been out for several games now. You're trying to figure out your guard rotation. You're trying to get your young guys to come along. So,
is the boot just so people won't ask questions? I just feel like the boot's like a optional accessory at this point. It's like put them in
between
boot.
those three guys. Yeah, probably, or just put a sling on them. Something kind of visible, like, hey, they're not available. But yeah, so Texas Tech wins tonight, 74-67. You were talking about it, just how well they shot, 93% from the free throw line. O'Banner was 7 of 7, Tyson 1 of 1, Harmon 4 of 4. He shot really well from three. You hit 50%. O'Banner was 2 of 5, but Williams is 1 of 1. Amac missed his one he took. Harmon was 3 of 4. And then you shot 47% from the field, man. I'm like, all of that. The turnovers, you would hope you would be able to turn Texas over a whole lot more, but they doubled you up there. They forced 12 turnovers. But then you came back with 7 blocks to just their 2. You out rebounded them bad, 41-29. So that's a huge advantage there for you. And evenly called, at least in the fouls. I haven't had sound on in this game for like 30 minutes of game time. So I don't know what all was being talked about, or if there was any kind of controversial call or whatever, because I just didn't hear it. But there's 15 each way. The starters, or at least the guys on the floor for Texas Tech, had the majority of them 3 for O'Banner, 3 for Williams, 3 for Amac, 4 for Tyson. But it didn't look like anybody else had 4. Nobody had fouled out in this game. So you were able to play a pretty good defensive effort. And you kept everybody on the court. You didn't seem to have the issues with the switching you saw a few weeks ago. Like I said earlier, Texas was able to scheme some shots open. They took advantage of some guys that overcommitted early. But it wasn't like they were just finding open guys shooting all night. I mean, you would hope that a team would shoot not 41% from 3, but they took 27 attempts there at 3, did the Longhorns, and connected on 11, and you shot 14 of them and hit 7. So
yeah, one other thing I wanted to point out too is Sir'Jabari Rice, his shot fake didn't kill you this time like it did last time.
Oh no, it ate your lunch in Austin.
Yeah, he shot 10 free throws in Austin. I mean, they were all fouls. I mean, I'm sure there was 1 or 2 that we could question, but he was 8 for 10 on free throws. He had 18 points in Austin, but had only 8 points tonight and did not attempt a free throw.
Mm-hmm. In 24
so they
minutes,
learned a little bit.
Yeah, Texas only had 2 guys in double figures. Marcus Carr, again, dude is just unbelievable. He had 23 points, 38 minutes. And then Dylan Dessou had 11 points in 24 minutes. Tyrese Hunter had 9. He was close. Cunningham had 7, but he was 3 of 9 from the field. Oh, it was Cunningham, 1 of 5 from 3. Which is huge.
He made his first one, I think, and then apparently bricked 4.
Sucks to suck, dude. Yeah, so Tech only attempted 2 3-pointers in the second half and missed them both, but they were at half, they were 7 of 12. Just ridiculous. So there was a time there where Texas Tech and Texas had made it close, and it got down to, it was 2 or 3 points there.
Well, they tied it.
Oh, it was tied.
Texas tied it, yeah.
But you were able to string that out a little bit, obviously, to win by 7. You didn't get quite the bench performance, but that's kind of to be expected with your rotation with the guys that have been out. You only got 13 points off your bench, but 36 of your points in the paint. You're still committed to getting the ball down low. You're not settling for a bunch of jump shots. Davian Harmon, again, it felt like the second half offensive plan for most games were to just let him cook. He was doing that a lot in the first half, and he was hitting some ridiculous floaters and jump shots in the lane. But when it's working, man, it's hard to default him for trying those shots. You only forced, like we said, the 6 turnovers on Texas. You only got 5 points off those. You only had 7 second chance points off of your 11 rebounds and only 2 fast break points. 3 dunks, or 8 of 19 on layups. Again, I'd love to see that number a little bit higher. The dunks number too. Man, it's great to see a win. Love that, especially against the Longhorns. Love that, man. Love it. Anything else we can talk about the Longhorns?
No. Aside from, well, I don't think we've mentioned it yet, but since we last recorded, they will officially be joining the SEC after the 23-24 season.
That's right. That came out.
So this could potentially, with how they're doing the schedule next year with basketball, nothing's been released, obviously, but could be the last time UT plays in Lubbock.
Maybe because of the addition of the other 4 teams, you're not going to get an 18-game round robin. You play everybody twice, so this may be the last 10. And if that's the case, just like in football, love to send them off with a loss.
Yeah, and if any indication of how the SEC is handled, Level mentioned this on a different show, but he mentioned, look at how the SEC has handled Texas A&M in the SEC Big 12 Challenge, even in basketball. I don't think A&M has played a Texas school this entire time, and they've been doing that challenge for like a decade plus. Pretty much since A&M joined the conference. I don't think they've ever played a Texas team. So, I mean, I'm sure they would keep UT from playing a Texas team if they could at all help it.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. You don't have that same luxury against the Sooners, though. They did beat you here on your home court. You do have to go play them in Norman. That's one of your other games left. At Norman, at West Virginia. Home versus TCU, home versus Oklahoma State. There's one more. Anyways. Kansas and Lawrence. So you've got 3 road games, 2 home. Your stats did improve slightly after beating Kansas State. Surprisingly, you only moved up a couple spots in KenPom, and I assume those will continue to trend at least a little bit up. But before tonight's game, you were 67th overall in KenPom, 61st in Haslametrics and T-Rank, and 70th in net rankings. You are now 3-10 in Quad 1 games. Hooray. 0-1 in Quad 2. You did have a Quad 3. You had a Quad 2 game get reclassified as a Quad 3, so you do have a loss there between Quad 3 and 4. You are 11-1 down there. Offense 83rd according to KenPom, 57th in defense. You're obviously going to need to continue to improve that. Play a lot like you did tonight to hope to continue that trend to win at least your 2 other home games. We'll see how that works out. But these, net rankings not really all that worth it unless we're on the bubble or that kind of talk. You did have a game last week. Did we do an instant reaction on the Oklahoma State game? No, I didn't think so.
No, because I think we recorded Tuesday and then the game was Wednesday.
Something
like that.
Oklahoma State, it was tied with just a few seconds left. You didn't block out on a missed shot. They were able to tip it back in, and then you fouled them, and they hit the free throw to make it a 3-point game. Just a heartbreaker there. You felt like you did have a chance, obviously, when you're going, when you're that close. But then you did come back. You did beat Kansas State on Saturday. You beat them by 8, so a lot like you did tonight. 74-67 tonight. It was 71-63 on Saturday. Michael, you did note that Texas Tech did roll with an interesting lineup. I'm pulling that up real quick, and I can tell you what that was.
Yeah, there was, Elijah
starters.
Fisher started for one, and Kerwin Walton.
Yeah, you had four
started
guards.
Yeah.
And O'Banner. And Harmon put up 20 points. Tyson had 11, O'Banner 10. Fisher only had 2. Walton only had 2. But Lamar Washington added 13 points. He was a big spark coming off the bench for you against the Wildcats. He wasn't so active tonight, was he? No, he had 0 points tonight. Lamar Washington, 0 for 1, took 1 shot, played 9 minutes. I wonder if he got hurt.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he had a really rough outing in Stillwater. He was 0 for 3 on field goals, including 2 of those were threes. Just had a few rebounds, and for whatever, I don't know why, but on my stat broadcast, I can't see how many minutes they played. I think I've done something wrong. But yeah, I don't know if he was injured or not tonight. Maybe they were just going with a different lineup, despite how well he came off the bench versus Kansas State just Saturday.
Well, it may have to do with his turnovers. So he played 9 minutes, but he had 5 turnovers in those 9 minutes with only 1 shot, and he missed it. But previously to tonight, and even the past couple of games, he's been really, really big for you. And you love to see his progression. Just another one of those guys you can lean on. Young, that hopefully will be around the program a little bit longer. And then we talked about it. Your next game Saturday is going to be at West Virginia, 11 a.m. on ESPNU. One of the reasons why you've got some wonky times with baseball, some of it was moved to accommodate broadcast of things. Because I think the women's game is at a time this weekend that interferes with the baseball game, or it was going to. And Keith Patrick was telling me you just don't have the staff or the infrastructure to do multiple on-campus sporting events broadcasts at the same time. As great as the control room is at the USA, I don't think they were planning on needing it for multiple simultaneous sports broadcast. But anyways, so that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about men's basketball right now. Saturday at West Virginia, 11 a.m. It is not close on the projection, 75-67. West Virginia is always a tough team, especially there on the road. They are 19th in the Haslametric rankings. They not great defensively in terms of like how they limit their team's shooting. They allow teams to shoot 44%. Now they shoot 45.5%, but they're allowing teams to shoot 44%.
I think that Haslametric ranking is wrong. I don't think I updated that. Sorry.
Okay.
I would not read that for West Virginia or OU.
That's fine.
I think that is. I was like, man, I don't think they're that high, and it's because I didn't update it. Sorry.
Well,
I'll do that though.
We had a lot going on with all the baseball stuff to talk about tonight. 72% from the line, still rebounding teams, out rebounding by about 3.5 rebounds, 34.5 to 31. And they are forcing 2 more turnovers than they are committing. And then you've got at Oklahoma to follow that up next Tuesday night, the 21st, which is also Samantha's birthday. So we may have to figure out a different schedule there. Programming note to Michael.
That's cool.
And Mardi Gras. So I got to track down a king cake for lunch dessert. If that is a thing. Because that won't be Samantha. She's like, I don't want king cake for my dessert. It's like, you don't have to have king cake for your dessert, but we're going to celebrate Mardi Gras, and the only way that I know how is that's to eat king cake. Because we're not Catholic, we don't celebrate or observe Lent, which is what Mardi Gras is. It's the last party shindig before Lent. If you didn't know that, but anyways,
I'm a Protestant, so
well, I guess
did I know that? Was I supposed to know that? Yeah, no, me too.
But next Tuesday at Oklahoma, 8 p.m., ESPN2, and it's a much closer projection, 69-67. the Sooners, the home team, are favorited there.
So Haslam, I was not that far off.
No, you weren't. I was actually a little surprised. West
I
Virginia
was too.
21st.
Yeah,
instead of
they're
19.
21. It was Oklahoma State that I think was 19 when I put that, because Oklahoma State's now 18. I think I had that left over from last podcast, but OU is 74. And as you mentioned earlier, Tech is currently 61st. But, the fact that you're playing it in their house and, the fact that they beat you in Lubbock, I'm sure amongst 1,000 other factors is how Haslam has that as an OU win.
Yeah, I'm gonna check really quickly, see if that ranking is updated after tonight. No, not yet. So let's wrap it up here, Michael. It's been a full episode, man. We talked about baseball. We had instant reaction. Let's just wrap this up and get to what do we learn. What do you think?
I'm ready.
Let's do it.
What did we learn, Palmer?
I don't know, sir.
I don't know either.
All right, the rain is back. The other thing I want to touch before we actually get to what do we learn. Baylor did defeat West Virginia there in Waco 79-67. ESPN headline had it as a blowout. I don't know if I'd call a 12-point win a blowout. But
Well, was it one of those where they were up by 20 with 4 minutes left or something? I don't know. Yeah, I'm with you. That's kind of weak.
I don't know, because they were up 34, against Tech not that long ago, shooting three still, which you love to see that. But I'm gonna let you go first.
Okay, I did the tri-tip this weekend. I've been in the Picador chat, which you can join through Gambling Gaucho's Patreon. That's on their Twitter page. Yeah, I don't even know how to get there. Just click the link on their Twitter page.
Gambling Gauchos. Yeah, it's on the Twitter page.
You can join. You can become a Patreon subscriber and join the mysterious and elusive and illuminating Discord. So we have a food channel in there, which is where I like to spend a lot of time. And we've all been pretty obsessed with tri-tips lately. And one of the guys in there is a big proponent of the dry brine, which I have used before too, especially on sirloins. And so I used the dry brine, just some kosher salt on the tri-tip. Really brought it alive, brought the color out, brought the juices out. I mean, excellent. And all I seasoned it with once I put it on the grill was more kosher salt. I didn't overdo it though. And then like some really coarse black pepper. I kind of wish I hadn't have done that. I think that piece of meat wasn't quite big enough to have that coarse of black pepper that I used, but it was still fine.
And pepper on the grill tends to burn.
Yes. So I just seared it on either side, and then I put it in the middle of my little Weber kettle. And the kettle was humming around about 350, so it took about an hour total to get the thing up to temp. Unfortunately, I don't know if I had the probe in the wrong spot or what, but I did overcook it slightly. But it still turned out fine. I mean, there was still some pink in the middle, but not near as much as I would like. So probably, medium to medium well tri-tip. I was really going for medium rare to medium. So, yeah, whatever. But I made chimichurri for the first time ever, which the same guy talks about. And that's usually what he uses. And so made it from scratch. I found a cilantro heavy recipe because my wife requested that. She's not really a big parsley fan. I don't blame her. And so cilantro heavy recipe, parsley, oregano, minced garlic, red wine vinegar, olive oil, salt, pepper, and crushed red pepper.
Dang, dude.
So nice. It was so
good.
nice. And so that's why I wasn't that worried about how I seasoned the steak, because I thought, well, I don't want this steak seasoning to be crazy because we're going to drizzle this chimichurri over it once I've got it sliced up. And I think I did it just about right. But I think the only thing I'd probably change, I'd put a binder on the tri-tip. I didn't do that this time because I was kind of worried about it. I didn't know how well a binder would work in like a fast cook. I didn't know if I wanted to put mustard or Frank's Red Hot or something on it before I seasoned it, but I kind of wish I would have, because some of that seasoning was just really falling off. But it was probably just because it was huge pieces of pepper. Huge. It was like, just whole peppercorns on there almost. It's that giant one, the biggest size pepper you can get that's not whole peppercorns from Fiesta, that Fiesta brand.
Mm-hmm. It's like 16 or whatever grind.
Yeah, 16 mesh or what. Yeah, I don't know why I got that. So anyway, that's what I learned. That's really good.
I think I have the same shaker, and it's too big. I put that into the grinder with the whole peppercorns. So it's like a refill.
Yeah.
I will jump in here. I did mention already. I went to the tailgate dinner, the kickoff event for baseball at Kegel's. I showed up a few minutes before our man Keith did, so I actually sat down for dinner separate from him. But we got together for the presentation, the videos, and the conversation there, the second half. But there was a group of two older couples that sat next to me, and I've never felt more seen of I've never seen myself so well into an old man. But so we're sitting down, and the steaks, like, I don't want to knock Kegel's, but for an event for 200 people, they're not going to have the upper tier of ribeye steaks. They just can't, and they can't cook them all that well when they've got 200 going. They were on the thinner side, probably, under half an inch. So you can overdo those real easy. The guys to my right, they were a little bit disappointed. Theirs were on the plus side of medium well. I was like, ooh, I'm not looking for, because I started with my salad and my baked potato first, because I want to clear some space on my plate. Then this dude next to me proceeds to pull out a bottle of A1 sauce out of his pocket and just like, boom, slams on the table. And as I'm finishing up my baked potato, he like leans over, is like, hey, you want some of that? I was like, dude, I would love some of that A1 sauce, because I was expecting my steak to also be a little on the overdone side. Not that you need A1 sauce. I love A1 that much.
It's really good.
I will put it
I'm
even
with
on the
you.
best of steaks, just because I love that too.
I don't keep it at the house for that, because I just know that even if I made a really good steak, I'd probably be like, well, I've got some A1 in there.
A little bit of A1, yeah, because
put a little A1 in there.
I really like it.
I do too.
I was pleasantly surprised. I cut into my steak and it was a beautiful medium rare.
Oh,
and I had A1. It was great. So
A1 on a baked potato, though. I don't think I've done that.
It's good stuff.
Yes, I fully believe that would be good.
I didn't do that on Friday, but I've done that before. But yeah, this man brought his own A1 sauce to a steak dinner. Which reminds me, this is related. One night on a date night, Samantha and I went out to Red Lobster, which isn't known for steaks. But when I go to Red Lobster, I typically get a steak because I don't like seafood. I ordered a steak and I asked for A1 sauce, and they come back and they said, unfortunately, we don't have any A1 sauce in the restaurant. We're all out. We're expecting a shipment in. We don't have any right now. I was like, what? Like, yeah, we don't have any. But our food hadn't been delivered yet. And if you're familiar with this location of Red Lobster on 50th and Slide, it's right next door to CVS. So you better believe I walked over to CVS and bought a bottle of A1 and brought it back.
Not.
And then I had to show proof on the way out that this was not a restaurant bottle. This was a retail bottle, and it was not theirs. Because they're like, sir, why are you walking out with a bottle of A1? I was like, this is mine. Good
I
sir.
bought and paid for.
Bought this bad boy because you told me you were out. You cannot have it.
You went and bought A1 sauce in mid-meal.
Mid-meal.
This might be my favorite Spencer story.
Yeah, I had to leave Samantha alone at the table for, a few minutes. Because like I said, it literally is right next door to the restaurant.
Yes, it is.
Right there at the corner. I walked out, very quickly found, and it was like the small bottle too, like the 6 ounce or whatever it is, the little one they have.
And it was $13 probably because it was at CVS.
Did not care. Bought it, ran back to the restaurant, and I had plenty of A1 for my steak, which was just, I don't remember the steak, but I remember going to buy A1 in the middle of a meal.
So you saw a future version of yourself with that gentleman that sat next to you on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
A smarter, wiser version of you who just gave up.
Brings it with him.
Just on person, just has the A1.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be great if you put it in a flask or something.
Yeah, maybe
Because
like
it probably just fits better in your pocket. So
That's
it's like,
it.
a flask? What's in there? A1.
It's A1, buddy.
You kidding me?
Because how
no,
disappointed
no,
would
I'm
you
not.
be?
I have A1 because I like to put it on my hot dog at baseball games or whatever.
How disappointed would you be if you went to a steakhouse and you like really wanted A1 and they brought you that Heinz steak sauce? Like,
Oh, I hate that shit. I'm
it's
sorry.
like, no, man,
I
just
didn't
send
mean to-
that back.
I went this whole time without cussing, but yeah, that Heinz 57 stuff is trash. It's like it's like someone added some A1 to some ketchup and we're like, yeah, we got it. No, you don't got it. Not the same.
Not the same. All right, you've got one more point.
Oh, I do. Yeah, I know nothing about it, but right before we logged on, first of all, Tom and Bingo's here in Lubbock, been here since the 50s.
I've still
talked
never
about
been.
it before.
Never been.
You've never been?
Mm-mm.
Oh man. Okay, I've talked about it before, but they've really taken their game up a notch the last few years. If you haven't been in a while, go. If you have been and you liked the old ways, I guarantee I think you'll like the new ways too. Anyway, go check them out. Not a sponsor, but they just bought a food truck. That was all I was going to share.
Do
So
you
there
know
might
if
be more ways to get some Tom and Bingos.
Do you know if they bought the Regino trailer?
I don't know. I don't know anything about it. It was like a Facebook post I saw right before we logged on. I saw it during the basketball game, so I'm not really sure.
Because like for
It looked
somebody
like
that
a new one.
well, the Regino trailer was still in great shape, but it would have been a quick turnaround because I think I've seen Regino still posting about that being available recently. So if it was like branded or whatever, all ready to go for Tom and Bingos, that'd be really quick for them to do that.
So Regino sold their food trailer? I mean, because they just had like, or I'm confused.
They did, or they're trying to, yeah.
Oh man, I had no idea. Because they just had, I saw people posting last week. There was a long line somewhere
I think it was the Cardinals, man.
for Regino. Yeah, probably probably Cardinals.
Dude, I now I need some barbecue in my life.
I do too. I've had it on my phone for like the last several weeks. I've had Regino barbecue trip ? In mine and my wife's Google Calendar from like 10 a.m. to 1 on Saturday mornings, and it just has not worked out yet for multiple reasons. And I'm like, okay, I just keep moving it to the next week. I'm like, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it this spring. I'm determined.
There's
I'm
so
calling
many.
it spring already. It's February, but you know what I mean.
There's so many great barbecue places here in town, though. Like just thinking about it, like I've been to the Shack, I've been to Evie Mae's, I've been to Regino, I've been to Pitforks and Smoke Rings out in Slayton.
Yeah. Ooh.
Who don't
sleep
get
on
enough
those
love.
guys.
They're so
Yes.
great. It's worth the trip. Like as much as Regino is worth the trip out to Olton, which it definitely is. You don't have to wait for the food truck to be in town because maybe that's not going to be a long-term thing for them. But they are expanding their footprint up there in Olton. Definitely worth the trip.
Bigham's has stepped up their game too.
Haven't
Like,
been to Tom and Bingo's, like I said. Haven't been to
Yeah.
Bingham's, but so many good options. Even Rudy's isn't that bad.
Absolutely not. It's great. For what it is, you cannot beat it.
So, well, you could with these other options I just listed.
Well, but I mean, it is a chain barbecue, a chain
Oh, yeah,
Texas
it's
style
not
barbecue
Dickey's.
restaurant.
It's
yeah,
not Dickey's.
Good Lord.
Solomon, though, in the Metroplex, they've got some good barbecue. No free ads. Not that anybody's listening, except maybe Kyle. But I don't know if they have any of those out in his area. So, anyways, that'll do it for us on the 23 Personnel Podcast. This one's a big one. One, we did instant reaction covering the Texas Tech victory over the Longhorns, 74-67. And then a preview for the baseball team, which could be rendered completely moot once the roster comes out and all the guys I told you to look for have been cut. Unlikely, because you got some really good guys on that roster. But get ready for more basketball, baseball this weekend from Michael and Spencer. Catch you guys next time.
Thank you for listening to the 23 Personnel Podcast. Help us out by subscribing, rating the show, and leaving a review. Follow us on Twitter at 23 Personnel, Spencer at Punt Suck, and Michael at Michael_LBK. Be sure to catch the next episode. And until then, guns up and let the tortillas fly.